You're listening to the Unlocking Africa podcast.
What I hope to achieve is to offer affordable accommodation to the working class and to students. Here in South Africa, we have people that are staying in their houses. They have small rooms at the back of their yards to rent out to people that cannot afford housing. A normal working class person doesn't qualify for government housing assistance, but you find that they also don't qualify for bonds from financial institutions. Building my business reputation has gotten me so far. I'm offering services that other backroom accommodations do not have. Back in the day, Johannesburg was known for miners to come from rural areas and so forth. So it is a land of gold.
Stay tuned as we bring you inspiring people who are unlocking Africa's economic potential. You're listening to the Unlocking Africa podcast with your host, Tessa Adamu.
Welcome to the Unlocking Africa podcast, where we find inspirational people who are doing inspirational things to unlock Africa's economic potential. Today, we have Nthabiseng Sejake, who is the founder of Be Evolution, which is a fast-growing backroom renting business in Soweto, South Africa. Welcome to the podcast, Nthabiseng. How are you?
I'm good, and you? Thank you for hosting me.
Fantastic. Thank you. I know we've been having this conversation for quite a while regarding the podcast, so it's great to have you here.
Oh, thank you.
I'm not sure if you've listened before, but I usually like to start from the beginning, so I was hoping you could introduce yourself and tell us a bit more about Nthabiseng.
Okay. Nthabiseng is a township girl. I was born and raised in Soweto. I was raised by a single parent who was also into a business. She had a small business that she was running. That's where I actually got this passion for business. And I work full-time for the municipality, doing the utility invoices and so forth. And on the side, I run my own rental company, which is Be Evolution, trading as Black Evolution. Through that, I got a diploma in business management and project management, and currently even furthering my studies in management. So I'm constantly trying to grow myself and my business.
Awesome. So you've given us great insight into your early days, raised in Soweto, and your mother was the one who inspired you to pursue, I guess, a career in entrepreneurship, which has seen you develop your property business. So I was hoping you could tell us a bit more about that business in terms of what you're currently doing in South Africa through Be Evolution and what you hope to achieve.
Basically, what I hope to achieve is to offer affordable accommodation to the working class and to students. I started my own business, actually. I converted my own house into 14 residential units, which I started to rent out to tenants of the working class. And then I resigned. I was working for the municipality straight, and now I'm working for the entity. So I resigned and I took all that money and I started student accommodation. Basically, what I want to do now, we have a big challenge in South Africa with unemployment. We also have a big challenge with affordable housings in towns. It's closer to a place of employment, but they are very expensive to stay in. So most people would rather commute from townships to town to employment. So that's how I started my business, and it's growing every year. I'm currently now on my third property, which is also a student accommodation. It's closer to the university. So the students just take a walk to the university. So like I said, I like to grow my business and myself and keep my tenants or customers, should I say, very happy.
Fantastic. So you've mentioned how you're trying to provide affordable housing to local people and students, and you're growing your business and yourself each year, which is great to hear. I've seen Be Evolution being described as a backroom renting business. For those who don't know what that means, what is backroom renting?
Here in South Africa, basically, we have people that are staying in their houses, and then they have small rooms at the back of their yards to actually rent out to people that cannot afford housing. For instances, or people that have just moved in due to urbanization, looking for jobs or to further their studies. in the olden days, you'd have those back rooms whereby you have a landlady who stays there maybe with her own family. Then you have other families staying at the back, and then they would have share like your 4 rooms, for instance, whereby they would share toilet and shower or bathroom, whatever it is. So right now we are quite different. We have managed to now give them good quality accommodations whereby each room, I'll talk about my business. I give them a shower and toilet in there. They have a kitchenette, they have wardrobes. So it's good living quality accommodation that I provide to all my tenants and even to my students. They have the same facilities. I don't believe that people should share your bathrooms or your showers and so forth. So I offer that. And because I was also renting out back in the day, there was a problem whereby if you are renting in a back room, obviously you don't have space and so forth. You just park your car, maybe if you have parking, and then you just go in there from work and then leave in the morning. So my property accommodations, I have a living space, I have bright areas and so forth, whereby people can just sit when they have visitors. Because you can imagine these are small spaces. So if you have visitors, you can't have them in that small room. So I would rather have them have that space whereby they can just have a bright, for instance. People can now wash their cars, giving them parking. They don't have to park somewhere. So I guess I'm changing the old ways of backroom accommodations and then giving them a new way of living.
Awesome, awesome. So you've detailed what backroom renting is and how you're hoping to change this idea in terms of how it's offered. So if we look at backroom renting, why is the idea of backroom renting important in areas such as Soweto?
Like I stated, urbanization. People are moving in to townships, to towns, looking for jobs or to further their studies. So obviously, these people are people that maybe just started working. The working class. They can afford to get bonds from financial institutions and so forth. So people that are moving to the city, they're looking for all these opportunities, and we offer a cheaper and affordable accommodation to them. And public transport is easily accessible for them to go to those towns and so forth. And so Soweto has now become very developed. We have malls that are employing a lot of people. So I help to bridge the gap. You find that a normal working class person, obviously doesn't qualify for government housing assistance. But you find that they also don't qualify for bonds from financial institutions. So that's where I saw the gap. And I said, no, let me offer rather rental accommodations to these people and student accommodations as well. When you go to town, these people don't play. It's very expensive because you find some of them, they've got gyms and so forth. So we offer more or less the same services, but unfortunately on a smaller scale because like my property for one can only accommodate, let's say 20 students. You understand? So back rooms are constantly growing. It's a market whereby people now can't afford housing, things are tough. So right now they need a place whereby they can just offer a roof over their family heads and stuff.
Brilliant. So you've detailed how you identified the need for backroom renting and how you're trying to close the gap in the market. So if we look at your entrepreneurial journey, is your property empire that you're building, is this your first venture or were there quite a few before this?
Before COVID, I was selling chickens.
Oh, really?
Yes. Basically, in the township as well, you have people in the corners. They like your food quarters or something, whereby this person will be selling food like brine chickens and so forth. So I saw also a market there because these people usually you'd go to the malls to get that. So these people are selling. So I found a couple of these people and I was selling them chickens and I was selling until late. So I was quite popular.
Brilliant.
So unfortunately, COVID came and I was losing money. I decided to stop it and then just grow my property company.
Brilliant. So did you use a capital from your previous business to help fund the property business?
Yeah, basically I found a property financing company. I was one of the people that they started to actually do this backroom accommodation on a larger scale, with. So I started with my own house, and then they gave me funding to make it into 14 units. And then, like I said, I resigned from my previous job, and I used all of that also to grow my business, like have the student accommodations. So I'm using a bit of both.
Brilliant, because we know that investing in property requires a lot of capital or financing. And you've touched upon the process that you used to acquire the finances to buy your first property. So, since buying your first property, what has been the process to acquire capital or financing to buy more properties?
The biggest challenges we have in South Africa with this backroom accommodation is that the financial institutions that actually see this as a business are very, very few. Your normal financial institutions, the normal banks that we use, they will not use that. They say, no, it's a projected amount. We can't give you money to build this. What if you don't get tenants? Whatever the case might be. So that is our biggest challenges that we have at the moment with growing this business. But I think having passion in what you do, you always find ways. Like I say, I'm constantly looking for investors who are willing to actually come and join me in this big market that is booming. I can say this kind of market that we have right now. Remember, South Africa is facing a lot of problems. We have load shedding and so forth. Businesses are losing. People are losing employment. So backroom accommodation is something that will always be needed because people are now losing their homes because they can no longer afford. But you are giving them affordable accommodations.
So, you mentioned not many financial institutions support backroom renting, and I guess the challenges that you face. So, when looking for finance or investing, where do you usually go if you can't go to the established financial institutions?
I guess you have to use your own money, your own salary. Like I said, I was raised by a mother who was running that seven and also working full time. So I saw how the business was actually helping us at home. So these financial institutions, they're there, but finance your growth as fast as you want it. So you find that maybe funding companies will give you, you take a bond with them also, and then they take about 10 to 15 years for you to pay them back. The market is actually growing every day. So if maybe I were to find somebody who will say, okay, fine, here's land, 2 hectares, how many families can you accommodate? I can easily say, okay, 100. And that would mean my business will grow faster and I can offer more of my services and properties to people.
So, you've detailed the process in terms of what you use to finance your properties that you've acquired so far. So, if we look at outside of your properties and the property industry in South Africa in general, what would you say is the current state of South Africa's property market?
The property industry is booming and it's growing every day. Like I said, one of the challenges we have in South Africa is unemployment and increase in population. So people will always need accommodation. And remember, like I said, for example, you find the working class, they will not afford getting government housing subsidy. And they also don't qualify for bonds from financial institutions. So there'll always be that gap due to things like load shedding, people are losing their jobs and so forth. So they are now moving out from the towns, they're moving back into the townships. You know what I mean? Our rates are lower than what they charge in town. I mean, a normal bachelor unit in town, for instance, will be plus minus about 6 to 7 thousand, and we offer our units from 2.5 to 3,000 a month. You know, so a lot of people are constantly, you advertise your room today and you already have a tenant wanting to come and view the property. So it's a growing business. Like I said, my company caters for that working class and people that are wanting to further their studies, like the student accommodation and so forth.
Thank you for that, Nthabiseng. So, you mentioned the South African property market is growing and people are moving out of the towns to townships. We know that globally the property market is usually controlled by large and powerful organizations. So, I was wondering, how does someone like yourself, who is working independently, manage to penetrate the property market within South Africa?
Oh, okay. Basically, I use a lot of digital marketing, which is cheaper to attract my tenants and students. And I'll tell them that I offer more or less the same benefits that those large organizations have. Secondly, I constantly want to build my business reputation. So I'm constantly asking for customer feedback, reviews, looking for ways to actually better my company. I might say also, I boast myself that I deliver excellent customer services to my tenants and to my students. And I attend quickly to any issues that they might have in either to bridge the gap. You don't want them to move. For example, my first property that I converted into 14 units. I can say 70% of the tenants that I have are tenants that I've had when I started. So it's like 4 years down the line and you still have the same tenants. I make sure that they are satisfied and the issues are attended. Tenants that would move out, I find out what is the problem. And you find some of them, no, Sabi, now I got a better job. I need to buy a house of my own, or they found a job somewhere else and so forth. So to have tenants telling you that no, it's not because of the service or your accommodation, it's because of one, two, three. I think building my business reputation has gotten me so far. I think if I increase that and if I keep doing that, it will grow my business. I'm offering services that other bedroom accommodations do not have.
So you detailed how you've managed to make a mark in South Africa's property market, and your properties are in Soweto. We know that Soweto is an iconic place with lots of history and rich culture. In the past, Western media has portrayed it somewhere that is low income, high crime. I was wanting to know from yourself, what is the reality of living and building a business in Soweto?
Like you said, Soweto is a tourist attraction on its own, for the mere fact that you constantly have people moving into Soweto. You have people from overseas coming into Soweto, some of them even buying properties in Soweto. You have small businesses like your small spaza shops, it would be like your shops whereby you can get your groceries in every corner and so forth. You have malls, you have everything that you have in town, you can find now in Soweto. So you have schools, you even have varsities here in Soweto. That's where my students actually come from. It's growing every day, and being in Soweto, everything is moving to Soweto right now. So anybody who wants to buy into Soweto, people are not moving out. We have everything around Soweto, and it's a lot of people. I think the world they see us as having lions in our backyards. No, we also go to zoos. you know.
Fantastic. I know that. I know that. I just wanted to ask you the question. So you've mentioned that a lot of people are moving to Soweto, and in terms of the infrastructure that's being built around Soweto and what's available. I was hoping to go into a bit more detail regarding that in terms of how has Soweto changed over, let's say, the last decade or so? How has it changed just in terms of the last couple of years and how it's developed?
Oh, okay. Take our health system, for instance. Right now, you don't have people having to take taxis to go to hospitals. Every area in Soweto has its own health facility, their own small clinics. We have hospitals, we have police stations. Like, a lot has changed. We have our malls, like I said. We have businesses that are coming to Soweto. Soweto has changed quite a bit, and it's still changing. Every day it's still changing. If you look at Soweto right now, you'll have rather tourists wanting to stay in Soweto than having to go stay in towns. They want the experience. Everything that you need is just a length away. You understand? In town, you have to maybe take your own car and drive to the mall or wherever. Here, if you want bread, it's a walk away. If you want a beer, it's a walk away. So everything is closed aside. So people are also starting to see that the property market is also affordable to everybody. So anybody can just step into it, and it's easier to buy. When you look at the municipal rates that you pay, they are quite actually cheaper than when you were to stay in a suburb or so forth. So people have now found it's easier. Hence, that's why even the people that are using public transportation, they would rather use that than commute to work in town and come back. You understand? So in that way, people are now seeing that everything that is there in town is now in Soweto. You can take a walk. Soweto is now one of the safest places. You know what I mean? So I think before it was that problem whereby you'd find that police were rarely seen around the township. Now every township has got its own police stations. So Soweto is a place to be, basically.
Amazing, amazing. So you've detailed how Soweto has changed significantly over the years, and people are moving from outside to Soweto. So, with that in mind, what do you think is the importance of people who come from Soweto playing a significant role in how the area is developed and regenerated?
Yeah, it's very important for instance, for me to play this role that I'm actually playing right now. Remember, we are increasing employment. For instance, each and every property of mine, I have a caretaker that is there. That caretaker also stays with his family and earns a salary. And then, secondly, with people moving into our townships, we have our local policing forums that we have to keep everybody safe. You know, you have people that are patrol coming from work late and so forth. So everybody's participating in making sure that our areas are safe. You have people going out to government requesting maybe that transportation be easily accessible to people and so forth. And government is coming in and saying, okay, fine, we have what we call Rea Vaya buses, which is from our government. They are cheaper and they help people to commute from school and work and so forth. So it's very important for a person coming from Soweto to actually build, to use a better word, invest in Soweto. If we increase the revenue that we generate from here, which means we create our own employment, and it would be easier for us to grow as South Africa if we start with the townships, because most of these things are not affordable to a lot of people. There's a lot of, you find, due to urbanization, you find a father leaving a family of five, coming here, staying in a back room and so forth, and they'll be sending money back home.
Yes.
So we are all basically just helping each other out.
Thank you for that. You touched upon this just then, but I wanted to see if we could go into a bit more detail with regards to what impact does it have on the local community when you employ local people to work on your projects? For instance, buying building materials locally, employing local people to help with the construction of the building. What impact does that have on the local community?
It has a lot. I'll give you an example on my property. To build them, I use builders from around the township. The cleaning people for my company are all employed from the township. The caretakers are from the township. Even when I run out of space, for instance, for parking, I use my neighbors. They also generate income also. I find parking spaces and they pay for that parking space. So we are constantly improving each other, you know. I think the property sector, the biggest challenges that we have, even in the township, is that our government does not support our businesses as much as we would like. So you find a lot of these big companies, or you find foreigners that are coming in and taking over black businesses and so forth, because it's very hard for people to actually get into the property market or maybe run a shop and so forth. So I think with us working together and creating employment amongst each other is the only way that we are actually surviving and helping to fight all these big organizations that are coming in, you know. I'll tell you, for one, in Pinville right now, which is close to the university. We have a company that is a very big company that's coming. It's going to take about 7,500 students, I think. You can imagine our government allows certain things like that. And we are a small market. We are trying to compete. We are offering these services. It's already challenging as it is. So to have them moving into our own space, it's very hard, because for them to buy a bigger land is obviously close to nothing. For us, we constantly have to have these, let's say, 400 square meter properties that we have to now take 20 students at a time. Now, these people are willing to take one property and 7,500 students. So we have quite a bit of challenges when it comes to that. So what we basically do is now start saying to government, no, guys, please, can you just look into this? These people are moving into our business, and failure for government to intervene, you find that people will now go on strikes, they'll start burning companies and stuff like that. And these are things that we need to start avoiding. I think if we could remedy things before they start becoming a problem. It's the best way. We are small businesses and we are trying to survive, and we need our government to actually come in. Most of our finances basically come from, unfortunately, private sectors, imagine. So we are the ones that are creating employment to our South Africans. All these other companies coming in from other countries, basically bringing their own employees and so forth. And I feel that is unfair. Hence, that's why in South Africa, we have this thing of saying, if you have a business, you employ your local people so that we grow our market, we increase employment at least in the townships. And that, in a way, will decrease the crime that is currently happening in South Africa. So we are more determined to make things work.
So you mentioned our government does not support businesses such as yours as much as you'd like. So I was wondering, what type of support do you receive from the government?
Generally, nothing.
Okay.
But I work for government, so at least they're paying my salary. So, like I said, it's that's a problem. You know, when you have black business, more especially in property development, you'll knock on doors, and the only doors that will open will probably be the private sector. You understand? I wish government could just see that if they could do this, we are the people that are actually employing South Africans. You understand? We are the people that actually bridge the gap that they cannot close, because obviously, if you cannot give somebody housing, for instance, we are there to say, okay, here's affordable housing. So they should invest more in that. You see, and you find that these private institutions obviously have a higher interest rate. So they should just maybe say, okay, we have this. Until you come bring your business, what do you have to offer and so forth. And you find with these private investors, you now have to pay a capital. And sometimes it's money that you can't raise. Let's say I want to build something which is worth 2 million, for instance. I need to raise 10%. How do I raise 10%? You understand? So I think the government sector really should look deep into giving us the support that we need in South Africa. We already have challenges. Remember, we are small. So when there's load shedding, for instance, not most of us have generators or solar panels and so forth. So when you go into solar, it's expensive for us small businesses. And we have to keep our tenants. Now you go into debt again because you have to buy your generators and so forth, so that when we have load shedding, we have to bridge that gap and keep the tenant happy, basically. So in instances like this, I think our government should also include certain things to say, you know what, you guys are small businesses, you have a challenge. How about we have loans whereby, for instance, you can get your solars installed for you to compete, or maybe your boreholes, so that you don't pay. So we pay our water services, our electrical bills and so forth. But unfortunately, during that 2 or 4 hours that electricity is off, that's where we lack. That's where we can't compete with these large organizations. So I really wish our government can just hear us through this.
Thank you for sharing that, Nthabiseng. So, despite the challenges, you're still managing to push forward and grow your business.
Through customer satisfaction.
Yes, through customer satisfaction, which is a huge thing, and it shows that you're doing a great job. We know that your business is currently focused on the Soweto market or area. Do you have any plans of expanding the business to other areas in South Africa?
Yes. Currently, right now, I'm looking into another region, which is Bloemfontein. Soweto is well developed, but these other areas are not as developed, and they don't offer the same benefits that we offer to our students. So I want to move into those areas, dip into that market. I have a friend actually who just bought a house about a year ago and has managed to get from 10 students to now 30 students in a matter of 2 years.
Oh, wow.
So it shows that with this market, if we offer them what Soweto offers them, you know, this business can grow a lot. You have students that, let's say in Bloemfontein, it's not as developed as Soweto, but you have students that are staying there. They don't have Wi-Fi, but they need to use their computers to study and so forth like that. So they don't have lounge areas or cooking areas. They just have rooms in which they sleep. So in Soweto, we offer all of that. So I want to move my business to other provinces within South Africa and offer the same services that I'm offering in Soweto. And if I were to find an investor to do that, I think, what's the term? We'll make a killing.
Brilliant. I'm confident you will make a killing, definitely. And I'm hoping there's some investors out there that are listening to the podcast who can support you with this great vision that you have.
Yes.
So you've mentioned the property trends that you're seeing in other provinces outside of Soweto. So if you look at trends, what trends in South Africa or just Soweto's property markets are you seeing that you're currently excited about?
I say thank God I actually grew up here. It's a land of opportunities. It's they actually call our area the city of gold, because back in the day Johannesburg was known for miners to come from rural areas and so forth. So it is a land of gold. So in other areas, what I've basically noticed, you find that they are now starting to build universities and so forth. And you find in those areas they do not have enough accommodations. I'll give you an example. There's a place called Pretoria in South Africa, whereby you have students that are protesting against NEFSAS, which is the National Student Financial Aid Scheme, in rental income, as the student accommodations are quite expensive. So if we offer the same benefits in townships, which obviously the land and the rates, everything is better. It's affordable in Soweto and so forth in townships. Every area that you go to in the province has got its own town and it's got its own townships. So if we can actually go into that market and say, okay, fine, we're going to offer what the bigger organizations are offering in town, but we do it in the location. This is an opportunity that we've seen it's working here. You have my student accommodation in Prinville. Students would easily come in there. They walk away from the university. And now in Bloemfontein, for instance, it's a rural area. If I can build that in the township next to the varsity, it's a big market and you don't have to struggle about people paying because you are paid directly by the government. So it's a huge market. I'll give you an example, for instance. My residential units are going, let's say, for 2.5 a month. But with the student accommodation, within that space, I can accommodate 2 students in one room. You're looking at about 9,000 a room. You understand?
Yes.
So if a room is giving you about 9,000 and you have, let's say, 10 of them, you are making about 90,000 rent a month to accommodate these students. So the market is there, it's growing, it's big, and we are bridging that gap. You would have less students that are actually now sleeping in Pretoria, for instance. We have students that were protesting, sleeping in the streets and so forth to say, no, the accommodation is so expensive, we can't stay here. So if I can offer that same benefit to the students in the townships, I think I will help bridge a lot of gap.
Amazing. Thank you for sharing that, Nthabiseng. So if we look past, I guess, the current trends and look at the future, where do you see Soweto or South Africa's township property markets in, say, 5 years' time?
In 5 years' time, South Africa is growing every day. The property rental market is growing every day. I want to actually penetrate the student accommodation sector. This is a big market that in townships that student accommodation is affordable, as compared to the towns. And I want to make sure that, when you look at property rental and student accommodation, remember, here in the townships, we are trying to bridge the gap and actually offer the same service to fellow South Africans, that are trying to just make a living. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So in an instance, a student accommodation in town, they will offer things like your gym and so forth, and we have to compete against that. But at the end of the day, you find people from rural areas. This is a person that says, you know what, I'm here to further my studies. I'm here to find employment and so forth. I need to feed my family and so forth. And we are now saying to those people that, no, come to our side. We can give you a cheaper, more affordable accommodation for you to actually further your studies or to advance your career, for instance. So having a property in Soweto or in township areas, I think people do not see it. It's a growth on its own. Hence, that's why you find these big companies trying to move in or creep in and so forth. Because they see now we have a market, we've basically have our own network that is
Yes.
happening here. We have our own people marketing it. We have our own people managing them. You find people like garden services for local people. We have our own spaza shops. We are running a network on our own and it's working. And we need to invest in this market.
I agree 100%. And it's great to see someone like yourself who is actually investing in the market. So if we look closer to home at yourself, where do you see yourself in Be Evolution in 5 years' time?
I want to penetrate the student accommodation sector. I want to offer student accommodation to those that are previously disadvantaged. Coming from a background whereby, you are raised by a single parent who does everything, has to work and run a business and so forth. I understand that everybody comes from somewhere, and that somewhere, unfortunately, is not privileged. And if we offer the best student accommodation and or property rental to those working class and so forth, I mean, you can imagine a child coming from rural areas whereby they're not even used to a laptop. Now they're here in varsity and they're doing computer studies and so forth, or whatever they are studying requires them to do the research. So I make sure that I provide at least that Wi-Fi so that whenever they buy a phone or a laptop, they can actually start practicing and get used to using the internet. I think in your countries it's better, in UK, whereby everybody has phone or laptop. But in South Africa, when you find the normal areas, the rural areas, you find that a person learns about a simple transaction that they can do in an app only when they get to varsity. So I want to help actually the less disadvantaged students of South Africa to actually have the best accommodation and help them further their studies as best as I can.
Thank you for sharing that. You've given us insight into where you see yourself in 5 years' time, what type of legacy or footprint you want to leave in South Africa, which is truly inspirational.
Thank you.
Quote of the week.
As people, we often have quotes, mantras, African proverbs that keep us going when times are good or when times are challenging. Do you have one that you can share with us today?
Yes, I do. I'm a big fan of Rich Dad and Poor Dad.
Oh, brilliant.
Comes from there. So it says, start minding your own business, keep your daytime job, and start buying real assets, not liabilities.
Brilliant. Assets over liabilities, I agree. Thank you for sharing that. I'm a big fan. I've read the book a couple of times, listened to the audio book as well. So yes, definitely fantastic. Thank you for sharing that. So as we're coming to the close of today's conversation, do you have any closing remarks, any final calls to action? For people who are interested in the work that you're doing, interested in the property markets, in the townships in South Africa?
Yeah, I do. Like I said, the biggest challenges that we have is financing in South Africa. This is a booming market. You can have a property, give my house as an example. This was a house I was paying a bond of plus minus about 5,000. I made rental accommodations on it, which gave me a rental income of plus minus 34,000. Now I went into a student accommodation sector. Now you're sitting on a property that's willing to give you about 120,000. So I want people to look into this business very, very carefully. This is a market, it's growing. If you join me and then we invest in this growing market, I would really appreciate it. I'm growing every day, but not at the pace that I want to grow. So having an investor who's willing to come on board and say, you know what, Sabi, I believe in you. I've had people from my previous interview with Biz News whereby they've came up and said, you know what, we've got land in Soweto that we're no longer using. You understand?
Yes.
And Tabi, are you interested in this land? But the problem is now I'm interested in that land, but I need somebody to come with me because I don't just need to buy the land, I need to develop it as well. And it's in close vicinity as well with the university. Plus minus, you're looking at a rental income of about 800,000 on full capacity a month. So this is a growing environment. It's a very, 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 very big environment. Township people are now standing up. They are growing their businesses. They need people that are coming in to help them grow their businesses. They need people to actually help them compete with these big organizations and offer their service. And then they are the people that actually cater for people of South Africa, you know. You can imagine if I decided to keep one of my property companies open, the rental one, because of you have now people that are working as bank tellers, for instance. Those people cannot get government assistance, maybe get a house or so forth from government. But when they go to the bank, they cannot afford to actually get financial assistance for them to actually buy a house for themselves. So this is a market that South Africa is failing. And, you know, it's like the poorer will get more assistance and then the richer will get richer. And the normal class, working class, basically goes to work to pay for them to keep coming to work, if you know what I mean. So they're not growing at all. And if we offer more of these properties for those working class people, I feel that we'll actually build a gap whereby you'll find people in South Africa, for instance, we have a challenge with land grabs now. People are feeling so frustrated with government and saying, no, I'll rather go, I'll just build my old shack or something like that there, and then the government will see forth. You can help actually avoid such situations because people at the end of the day are looking for accommodations. Students at the end of the day are looking for better education. Better education is obviously in urbanized areas, you understand? So if we increase business in the township, we will increase people in the townships with employment. We will lower the crime rate. And if we can get support from outside businesses, if you're interested, you can contact me and then help me develop and bridge this gap that government is failing us and financial institutions as well are also failing us in. Thanks.
Thank you for that, Nthabiseng. That was a great closing remark, call to action. You've given us some great insight. That has been an inspirational interview. You have a unique story and one that I think will resonate with many budding African entrepreneurs, not just entrepreneurs within South Africa, but I think throughout the continent. You've shown what is possible and how you can achieve great success whilst also positively contributing to your local community. So thank you for sharing your story today.
No. For you to actually identify me as one of the people and getting my message across, thank you, Tessa. Thank you.
Thank you. No problem. I hope many people get to hear your story and reach out to you because, yeah, you're a true inspiration. Well done, Nthabiseng.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you to everyone who has listened and stayed tuned to the podcast. If you've enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, share, or tell a friend about it. You can also rate, review us in Apple Podcasts or wherever you download your podcast. Thank you and see you next week for the Unlocking Africa podcast.